So previously on the dinner bag and with the Steelers, we were freaking out over the offense because for the first two games, they did basically nothing. And in this last preseason game, they did something, sort of, a little bit. Are have we all calmed down? Are we can we uncancel the season now that they scored a couple touchdowns in the preseason? Can we all calm down now?
I think so. I mean, it's the preseason, and I think Pittsburgh's probably no different than like Cleveland or other good football cities, right? But we get tunnel vision. We're just concentrated on the Steelers. If you look across the board, the Carolina Panthers blew up the Bills. The Raiders tied the 49ers. I mean, it's so hard to tell. And I think, I mean, we go back and you and I've talked about this, right? The scheduling. We only have 3 weeks. We used to have like six. So it's
Yeah.
like they're trying, I think they're doing every little thing they can. And these things are just such phantasms of what could possibly maybe now the Detroit Lions, who if that would be a very tough opponent, very well could lose to them. But again, yeah, but to answer your question, yes, the flow was better. They put 17 points on the board. Passing was good. All the quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, I know 2 for 2, but Fields was 3 for 4. The battle for third place, the quarterbacks didn't look too bad. I think Kyle Allen, 3 for 5 for 68 yards, So yeah, not bad. Cordell Patterson scores a touchdown. Perrine scores a touchdown, so that was kind of neat. But yeah, better. But again, and that was going on. We had my fantasy draft on Saturday, on top of all the other stuff you and I just talked about, and everybody was kind of talking about that point. They had actually watched our podcast, and I think it was you or somebody made the point that last year they were absolutely phenomenal, off the charts offensively. We're sitting there blowing out of our chairs, and then they just stunk. Majority of the year in offense. So who knows? I mean, they haven't been great this year in offense since preseason, no, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to maybe make some waves in the regular season. So we'll see.
Yeah. The thing I keep hearing is they look good in practice. They haven't looked good when they're playing preseason games, but they look good in practice. So we shouldn't worry. But my problem is Russell Wilson has hardly played this entire. He's hardly practiced. So I don't know where they're getting this. They look good in practice thing when your starting quarterback isn't practicing. I don't know.
Right.
Um, I, I just between them changing the offensive line like every other day, which also doesn't make any sense. I know there's injuries there, but still that didn't make any sense. Like I don't think this offense is ready, and I think they're going to struggle early.
They might. I'm not going to sit there and pretend that they're going to go come out the gate scoring 35 points. It is a concern. Like you said, Russell Wilson, we've been laughing since day one when he got hurt pushing a blocking sled. Hopefully that doesn't happen next year or anytime during the season.
Yeah, ever.
No blocking sleds. But yeah, you're right. And it's just, I think, I'm kind of confident that either one are going to be in a good rhythm with George Pickens. But the funny thing was, when you look at this year, I mean, Des Fitzpatrick's not looked bad. Pruitt's had some plays. Van Jefferson's been sprinkled in there. Connor Hayward has looked, not this past weekend, but Connor Hayward has showed some promise. So it's just like, I think there's just a lot of unknown. And it goes back to, again, they just simply either had a plan B and it didn't work out, or their plan B was a bad plan B, whatever it is. You have not fulfilled the Deontay Johnson trade. Although, oddly enough, if you look right now at the depth chart, the man they traded for is one of our starting cornerbacks. So you can't say it's a total flop yet, but I really would like to have seen, if you were going to pull a trade on Ayuk, pull the trade. You didn't. Now there's people talking about, they're sniffing around with Devontae Adams. Okay, great. Either one, Ayuk, Adams, somebody would be better than I think what's there now. And I think that's the concern, because all these defenses, the Browns are very good defensively. So are the Baltimore. Bengals, not worried. They're going to double team Pickens.
Yeah.
And who are we left with? Basically a bevy of guys. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's all going to make it, Joe. Tomorrow will be pretty interesting because I think they might go into this season with 5 free safeties, on the roster. I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
So, they cut 8 players today. I don't know if you saw that. So they're already kind of out in the front, but nobody of any ilk, nobody that we're going to, fall out of our chairs on. So yeah, I don't know. I tell you what, I do feel better about our punters better.
Yes.
I think our so yay. I think our special teams will be good. I'm not that concerned about defense yet. I still would like to see them go against the starting offense for 4 quarters. Um, but the one thing too, when I go back to last year, and I think you were the first to say it on the podcast, and you pointed out, and you're right every time. Um, One of the reasons we struggled was our offense put our defense in a precarious position damn near every game. So like, oh, the Steelers, they fading in the fourth quarter. Well, no shit, because they've been on the field for like 35 minutes, or
Right.
whatever ridiculous thing it is.
Right.
So, you know, um, yeah, I just hope we're not seeing a repeat of that because that'll get real old real fast. And with this schedule, good lord.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what how it's going to go down. I have high hopes. I think, now that we have an offensive coordinator that is actually eh, not a moron, I think that'll help. Maybe it's just rope a dope. Maybe they're just lulling us into this false sense of dread, and they're gonna come out and say, "Ha ha, I gotcha," and they're gonna put up like 70 points in against Atlanta or something. I don't know.
Right. And I mean, they might, I don't know. You could sense Tomlin's already a little frustrated because he's feeling a little heat, saying he realizes the offense has not been good. And that's the thing. I mean, you and I can sit here and we can play it off that it's preseason. But the fact that it took you to what this past Saturday to actually score a touchdown, that is concerning. No question about that. Because if you do look at some of these other scores, these other teams are putting up 31, 24, 26, 21, 18, 40, 35, whatever. And we put up 17 was our best shot.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know. It's concerning a little bit for sure.
yeah.
It really is.
The This week is going to be very interesting. One of the things that will probably get resolved is the big quarterback battle that has been going on that we haven't known. We have no idea. Well, if you listen to the national experts, it's this big race between who's going to be Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, and everybody in Pittsburgh is like, "What are you talking about? We already know, like it's extremely obvious who the starting quarterback is going to be, but the national idiots. Did you hear Dan Orlovsky was like, we got bamboozled, like, buddy. How did somebody try to sell you a bridge in Brooklyn or something like that? I mean, how gullible are you dork?
First of all, you're Dan Orlovsky. You spend more time on your back than Blanche Devereaux from the Golden Girls. So
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I mean, look, yeah, I get it. You want to get into a broadcast career, but some of these guys that are like experts on there, I'm thinking, yeah, you were pretty good in college. And you got to the NFL, you were barely better than a third stringer. So I is what it is, but I don't really take too much what Dan Orlovsky has to say. Not that I'm saying I know more than Dan Orlovsky. I'm just saying that we
You
all
know more
knew.
about the Steelers than Dan Orlovsky.
Well, there you go.
And
Yeah.
that's a thing. That's a thing.
Yep.
All these now, you ask me to talk about the inner workings of the Denver Broncos or Seattle or something like that. It's like, I don't know what I'm talking about. So these national people, they have to know about every single team. So they can't possibly know what's going on. Or here's a crazy idea. They knew what was going on and they just needed the fill up airtime and get clicks and get attention, so they make up some stupid quarterback competition where there was none.
Oh yeah, no, and I saw multiple times on ESPN in particular, like he would say Pittsburgh quarterback controversy. Like that was the graphic. Like,
Yeah,
no, I mean,
there was
no.
none.
I mean, if there would have been a question mark, maybe, but it's like exclamation point. Like, no. I mean, it's Yeah, no, I think if Tomlin would have come out and said, "Hey, it's anybody's job," then yeah, it's you feel free to let those things fly, put the graphics up, whatever. But he's kind of said it from day one. Now, the only thing that will probably happen, Joe, if Russell Wilson were to struggle, let's say in the first game or so or two, and they throw Justin Fields in and be like, "See, the controversy was always there," or whatever. I don't know, but um, I don't want to be picky or jinx anything. But once again, Justin Fields fumbled again
Oh
yesterday,
God.
Saturday. He recovered this one, but it's funny, like you say, the thing about Steelers inner workings. I can't tell you that I sat and watched a lot of Chicago Bears games. I know the offensive line was bad. I know he had to do a lot, but I couldn't tell you for sure if it was offensive line and blocking that he fumbled the ball so much, or if it was him that fumbled the ball, who was at fault. But it's starting to look to me like it may have been Justin Fields,
Yeah.
and that's something where, again, and Mike Tomlin and all the centuries he's been here, he isn't going to tolerate. So, 3 fumbles in the preseason, if there was any bit of underlying controversy at all behind the walls that we weren't told about, I think Justin Fields has done his due diligence to put himself in second place.
If Justin Fields sticks around, and let's say he is, in in a year, 2 years, 3 years, he Justin Fields is the guy, and they make him the long-term starter. He's whatever gray hairs are on Tomlin's beard and head, they're going to be multiplied by 1,000,000. He's going to make Tomlin age 100 years because, oh my God, the talent on the guy. I tell you what, if it's third and anything less than like five, Justin Fields is almost a guarantee that he's going to. He could just run for the first down, just do like a wishbone option thing, and he's going to find a lane. I saw him do
Yeah.
it on Saturday. The guy's talent is off the charts, but then he does things like not even handle a center snap, which he's done from two different centers now.
Yeah.
It's just so tantalizing. There's so much talent there, but also there's so much chance to screw up.
Yeah, and he has, and that's the thing. And like a lot of people make the comparison to Lamar Jackson, right? And we've done it, everybody does. Here's the big thing: Lamar Jackson's very much like a Russell Wilson. If you look at Lamar Jackson, he had double-digit turnovers only once in his career. All those other times, for all as much as he runs and he's nuts back there, he's had single digits, like 3, 6. I mean, that's the stuff you want to have,
Yeah.
you
Uh,
know?
just well, Lamar Jackson is a great runner, but he's also great at avoiding contact.
Yeah,
He'll run, but he won't, not like that dummy Richardson with the Colts who ran like crazy and would look to run over somebody. Like, buddy, that's why you only lasted 2 games and was out for the year because you were dumb. Even the other team, even the other, like he was talking to Trevor Lawrence, and the guy's like, dude, you gotta slow down here. You gotta watch yourself. So yeah, Lamar Jackson is smart about how he runs. He
yeah.
runs a lot, but he doesn't get killed until he plays the Steelers, and the Steelers make a point to beat him up.
Right, and you can look back at that, like, that's why I still have been I know there's been glimpses, like, right, Michael Vick, Jackson, probably Randall Cunningham a little bit. That goes back to you and me really kinda, being he's probably the first guy. Dante Culpepper a little bit. But guys like RGB3, there's a lot more guys that were running quarterbacks came in and got crushed because we live under this false sense that, hey, it's not that big of a difference from the NCAA to NFL. Yes, it is. No matter how good you are, Heisman winner, whatever, all pro, I don't care. The speed and the strength of these guys in the NFL, they're constant starters, are a lot better than what you faced in the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, whatever. And good job there. I mean, Anthony Richardson's a good example of that. And I don't know with Justin Fields, it's just sometimes maybe it gets in your head. I don't know what the turnovers, but I mean, that's Russell Wilson. The sad part is we're getting him at his last year, maybe last 2 years of his deal. He says he wants to play to his 40 or whatever, but he doesn't turn the ball over. And that's, I don't care if Justin Fields comes in and shows all this brilliance. If you're going to turn the ball over, it's
Yeah,
not going to happen. We,
yeah,
we went through that with Cordell Stewart, right, Joe? I mean, like,
right.
uh, he was a turnover machine in the beginning, kind of got better as he went along. and worked himself into a starting role. And that's how Justin Fields is going to have to do that. But if he's gonna, then you're otherwise you're gonna go with a Micah Tomczak, and nobody wants
Right.
to go with Mike Tomczak. We did
Right. Yeah.
6-10 under Mike Tomczak. That was great.
I guess Kyle Allen is this team's Mike Thompson. Um,
Right.
they got some good news. Jalen Warren is probably going to play week 1, but you never know with those hamstring injuries. You could say I could see him being a game time decision. It's like, yeah, no, can't do it. So I don't know, but he's very optimistic that he could play. But Cordell Patterson looked. I mean, he scored a touchdown on Saturday. I was surprised. To me, he's another like old fossil that, what are you doing out there, old man? But hey, he looked good on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean he's a 13-year vet, right? But a lot of people forget like he's been in so many different roles. He's been a kick returner, he's been a receiver, he's actually even played tight end a little bit, running back. And he's always been a guy like the Patriots, the Vikings, they can rely on him. And when he first broke into the NFL, he was just, really something else. So yeah, I think he's a good guy to have on the Steelers bench. Good guy to bring in. I'm glad that they brought him in. But what I don't want, Joe, is I don't want to see Cordell Patterson out there every single play or
Oh
be,
no, no.
you know, but yeah, you just never know. So yeah, the offense again, everybody was cheering in the first quarter, and then the next 3 quarters it kind of went back to being dormant. And I don't know. And I know the Detroit Lions pretty well, but not well enough to know how much their starters really played beyond the first drive.
Right,
So even then,
right.
um, just like anything else, in another week is when we're going to really start seeing did anything work, did training camp work, did all this hitting. That's one thing everybody agrees on. I've never seen him hit pads like they did this past year, at least under Tomlin, many years. So we'll see. But yeah, now defensively, pretty excited to see how this turns out.
Ooh.
I think they are. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I know it's a Steelers podcast, but they look pretty good on defense. The depth is very good. Um, I think they may have the best nose tackle in AFC possibly. Uh, Watt, Highsmith, and now you have Herbig, he's almost becoming so good. It looks like he's going to be pushing for playing time. But he's going to be a stellar substitute. Queen's going to be fantastic. We already have Fitzpatrick. Joey Porter Jr. is solid. And here's what I love about these guys' stories. Look at Liao, right? We thought he probably wasn't making the team this year, and now he's turning into this stud guy. They switched him to a new position, and he's found himself.
He was a
Like,
healthy scratch last year, and this year he was one of the darlings of camp. He was one of the best players almost the entire time. He really, whatever happened in that during the off season, it stuck. Whatever he did with training, whatever, he was awesome, and yeah, he solidified a place on the team. He was because likely that people would say he would probably be cut, but he solidified a place on the team.
yeah, it's almost like the old Joe Paterno thing. You get a 5-star running back, you're going to be a linebacker, and
Yeah.
it's like so that's what it is, and he's looked good. So, and that's the kind of thing that's frustrating for us as Steeler fans. It's like we should have a defense that should keep us in just about every game. Can the offense produce? And the sad thing is, we've had 2 years of that, and we're sick of it, and so. That's the thing. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If they start stinking up the joint with turnovers, 3 and outs, the Boo Birds are not going to wait. It's going to come down.
Well,
You know.
you have week 1 in Atlanta, week 2 in Denver, and then week 3 at home. By the time you get at home and you introduce those offensive starters, if the offense looks bad, maybe don't. Maybe just have them like sneak through the tunnel or something, or sneak underneath the stands or something like that. Don't introduce them.
Yeah, no. And Bo Nix has looked like a pretty decent pickup for the Broncos. I'm not saying he's going to light the world on fire, but so they seem to be sitting nice with their pick, and we're sitting here. I guess after preseason, the frustrating part is, Joe, that I think as of today on the 26th of August, we're still unsure of where we're at offensively. I'm not saying they need to go win 50-24 yet on Saturday, but it's just a little concerning that we haven't seen marketable improvement or something like that. But again, what can you say when these guys play, one set of downs or two set of downs and they're out
Right.
anyway?
Right.
So
Right.
that's why it's hard. But yeah, I think at this point, defensively too, we're kind of looking at who's going to play that slot corner. Beanie Wells started off really good in camp, and then for whatever reason, he's kind of slid back a little bit since midway through camp and these last few preseason games. So yeah,
That's an undrafted free agent. You don't have a lot of leeway when you weren't even drafted, buddy. You can't
right.
slip up. You can't. There's no drop off, bro. You better pick it up, or you're either going to be a backup or not even on the team.
Yeah, I'm sorry I said Beanie Wells on a Beanie Bishop, but yeah, no, but and Corey Trice has not looked bad, and I think he's solidified his position as the backup corner, the substitute on a few plays, and he was a guy we talked about. I told you I got to see him play in Purdue in his prime, and it was like, whoa, this guy's first round material, and if he wouldn't have been for his injuries, he probably would have been. We got him late, got injured last year. So if he can stay healthy, he could be a solid backup in the NFL, and I think we're okay with him there. But yeah, defensively, feeling pretty good. Offense, I don't know. I don't think we're gonna know until we have the first podcast after that Atlanta game that we can say, okay, you know what? Now we're not as worried, or we're
Right.
more than worried.
Right.
So,
Um. Yeah. The defense looks really promising when you consider Cam Hayward basically has not played at all. TJ Watt hasn't played at all in any like real, preseason games or whatever. And the defense has looked really good. That line is looking really good. Keanu Benton looks like he's going to be a star. Larry Ogunjobi might
yep,
finally be healthy. And when he's healthy, he's very good. That could be a
yep.
very good defensive line. And then you bring in this Dean Lowry looked good. Leal, maybe Mon Adams will make the team. Who knows? And then you got the linebackers, Patrick Queen. And that's going to be I mean, that's such a huge upgrade. You have a superstar in CJ Watts, a very good player in Patrick Queen. Highsmith is very good, and you could bring in Nick Herbig. This could be a really like like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter who the cornerbacks are. Maybe you just have you just have them sit down or something like that, or read a book or something like that, because the quarterback's going to be running for his life.
And I don't know if he'll make the team. I imagine he may have solidified it Saturday. But I told you the first week in camp, a lot of people were like, who is 48? Julius Welshkoff, right? And he was really sticking out, and he stuck out most of camp. And, yesterday or Saturday, I keep saying yesterday, he had 3 tackles, 2 sacks. He's looked fantastic on special teams. He's a rookie, and he's a linebacker. So, and we've known that they needed to add linebacker to that. That was a checkbox during the offseason. And boy, did they check that. So I think he makes the team. And I'm kind of excited to see what he can do, because I mean he's huge. He almost looks like Cruz out there. He's 6'7", and he's just mean. So I think he made himself for sure. I think he's made the team. He might get cut, but 3 tackles, a tackle for a loss, and 2 sacks on Saturday is the kind of stuff that helps you make that 53-man roster.
If not the roster, maybe the practice squad, and if not the
Right.
practice squad on the Steelers, the practice squad on another team or something like that. Yeah, that dude might have just played his way into an NFL career. 6'7", 6'7". He weighs 265. You can't teach that.
Yeah, he's the one.
Ooh.
He came in and he spun Fields around and kind of threw him for a loss. Almost Fields kind of scampered out of it. Then he came in and he's the one that kind of knocked Roman Wilson a little bit. And we were standing behind them, and you could hear it was Montavious Adams said, "Man, who's that big mother? It is that's that I don't know, Rushikoff or." He was talking to Connor Haywood and like, yeah, he's a big mother. I can't say it on air here, but so it was, like they were picking up on it. And we talked about it's always fun in any preseason with any team, really, some guy that shouldn't make the team, probably won't make the team, does just enough to make the team. And
Yeah.
look, you're trying to make a team that's pretty stacked at linebacker. So if he makes it, yeah, good for him. I don't know if we'll see him all the season, maybe special teams for sure. But yeah, fun to watch him. I'd like to see. I'm gonna be curious to see if he makes it tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be very interesting because I keep hearing that they're not going they're going to be picking people from that got cut from other teams and stuff. So it might be a very active week. Uh but also I wonder I wonder if Plumlee worked his way onto the team because
He could have.
he's been everything. He has been a Swiss Army knife. He's taking punts. He's doing everything. It's I've never seen a player do like almost every single position. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he had 32 yards rushing yesterday. It's he may have two. You're right. And again, it's the guys that maybe might they can impact this year or not. But yeah, it's kind of fun to see how he might fit in. But that's the thing about this offense. A guy like we're sitting here talking about a guy like Plumlee, and maybe he'll become this star we don't know about. Who knows? There's always those stories. But um, we'll see. Again, I mean, you're talking like Najee Harris has had barely any action. Jalen Warren has not had much. I mean, I think Pickens has probably played one drive each game, if that.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a very microcosm of what is to be. It's just I think a lot of Steeler Nation's probably a little worried, and they probably have a right to be. But we'll see come Sunday or 2 Sundays from now, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
see. It's yeah, because we really have it's such a small sample size, we really have no idea. Uh the thing about Russell Wilson is we'll know real soon whether he's going to stick around or not as the starting quarterback. And the reason I say this is because week 1 is against Atlanta, and that's supposed to be a sort of easy opponent. So if he doesn't look good in week 1, that's a little bit of concern. But then week 2 is in Denver against the team that cut him, against a team that's taking like an $80 million cap hit because they couldn't stand him for one more
Right.
minute. That ended as poor as bitter as you could possibly get. If he doesn't get fired up and if he doesn't play well in that situation, you're done, buddy. Sorry, that's you're have a seat. We'll just take our chances with Fields.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think those first 2 games say a lot about his development and what he's gonna do, and it's kinda like, having Cordell in back in the day was like, you kinda wanna see him play, you kinda didn't,
Yeah.
and, it's like, we have this guy Fields who you're right, he's this incredible athlete, and I tell you this, if he wasn't a turnover machine coming out of Chicago, and continuing to show that he's a turnover guy these last 3 games, the only 3 games they're gonna play, he might be pushing, or maybe
Yeah.
Tomlin would have said, I don't know. But when you have, what is it, 60 some turnovers coming into it, there's any NFL coach worth their salt is got to say, well, wait a minute, we got to see how this kid's going to develop, and that's the thing. It's always kind of like you see that in college too. Uh, there's the proverbial big guy. This is this great quarterback, but then everyone likes to back up. So if Wilson struggles, they're going to be calling for Fields, right? And then Fields comes in and maybe he does his thing. I don't know. Um, he just cannot turn over the ball, Joe. He can't. And like we can say all the crap we wanted to say about Kenny Pickett and all the other guys from last year, they didn't turn over the ball all that well. One guy did, but and he's in Buffalo again. So, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like there's this guy just oozing with talent. It's like, well, was it any given Sunday with the quarterback situation there? So I can't imagine that they're going to go too far into the season, Joe, without us seeing Fields under center. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
We'll see. We'll see. The backup quarterback is many times the most popular player on the team. Uh, we didn't deal with it under Ben Roethlisberger, and we didn't
No.
deal with it with I wasn't old enough to deal with it with Terry Bradshaw, but we lived through the 80s and 90s of the backup quarterback was the darling. When Bubby Brister sucked, we wanted Neil O'Donnell. How did that turn out? I don't know who the backup to Mark Malone was, but people wanted to
Oh god. Wasn't it
people
like,
wanted
Rick Strom or something
Oh,
like
remember
that? A little
Steve
bit.
Bono?
Steve Bono.
Uh, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You always
Yep.
want the backup in if the starting quarterback isn't playing well. So,
Well, in Terry's first years, there was, right? You had Joe Gilliam, who
mhm.
was kind of like a Justin Fields, right? I
Yeah,
mean, he could
yeah,
almost throw the ball further than Terry. He could throw it through a wall, but he'd also turn it over 5 times a game. And then you had, the proverbial Terry Henratty, popular
yep.
Notre Dame guy. But then, they realized and got, their heads screwed on straight. Like, no, Terry's got to be the guy. But yeah, we do have a little bit of a predicament. I don't care what anyone says. It's not a controversy, but it's just if Wilson were to struggle in any way, Fields is going in. And I don't think I feel like Tomlin. I don't want to say Russell's on a short leash, um, but if it goes south and they really struggle the first couple of games, I think then we will have a controversy.
I wonder how that's going to go because I mean, let's say in that scenario, Wilson does play poorly and they put in Justin Fields. I don't know if you can go back to that's like a one-time decision. It's like you make that, that's like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
No, no, yeah, and that's like almost like NFL. What do you want to call it? That's standard thing. You go to the second guy, you're kind of going to the second guy,
Yeah.
and that's just the way it is. So that's the thing. But I think they'd have to be almost like 0-3, and Wilson will have to be terrible because up until now he has been one of the best in the NFL in protecting the football. He only threw
Yeah.
6 interceptions last year, one of the best in the league. So I don't see any reason for him to waver on that. So let's just hopefully he sticks to it. And I really feel like the reason they wanted him to be here when they had Arthur Smith was like, look, we just need a guy that can run the offense and not turn it over, hand it off to our backs,
Yeah.
quick throws to the slot. We don't have what we have for a deep impact this year. Maybe next year we'll get a deep threat. Who knows? But it is what it is right now. And that if he can do that, and this offense can do what they do, and we're kind of going back to, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Hey, if that gets the Steelers a couple playoff wins and gets them to the AFC title game or something like that, or division championship, then great.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Fantasy owners aren't going to like it. Newer kids aren't going to like it. You and I, my dad, we'll be like, hey, yeah, okay, it's Steeler football. Franco, it's going to be great.
Uh,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. I just want, and you alluded to this earlier, I just want them to avoid all the three and outs. You have a good defense that just minimize how much they're out there. Have a long drive. I want these long drives that take up like 10 minutes. And hey, even if it results in a field goal, okay, fine. But you're keeping the defense fresh. That's all I want. Keep the defense fresh. Let the defense be the star. So be it. You know, that's last couple of years we've been winning games 14-13. Maybe this year we'll win games 14-10. I don't know. We'll have a big a nice blowout or something. I don't know, but
yeah,
just keep the defense fresh. That's all I want.
I think you want to keep them fresh. It just seems like I think the big problem the last 2 years was, and nobody wants to really bring this up, is really nobody knew what they were doing. I mean, I don't even know if you could say, "Oh, it's Kenny Pickett's fault." It was the offense. I mean, it was everybody's fault. And even I think I told you one of the things the players came out and said, not blatantly, but was like, this Arthur Smith guy, he actually has a plan. I think they
Yeah,
went through the last 2 years with a guy that didn't have a plan. So how do again, I'm not the biggest Kenny Pickett fan, but I don't necessarily blame him for everything. But nobody knew what the hell was going on. So at least now it seems like we have a direction. It's just are they going to be able to execute in that direction and score? And like you said, keep the defense, from having to be the guys that win the ball game every time. Because that was without a doubt that was what we relied on last year.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Um, we've
It,
already talked about this schedule, and the only other thing I'll say, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this is the kind of schedule. It's a grinding schedule. This would be the time to be a team that runs and grinds. Maybe the Steelers are only going to score 21 to 24 points a game, which would be better than last year. But if that's what they do, okay,
yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I mean, I think what they're trying to do is they're zig when everyone's zagging. Everyone has these high flying offenses where they're throwing all over the place. Okay, well let's do the opposite of that. Let's have a strong running attack and a strong defense that it's a strong running attack that eats up minutes. You're if you're spending most of the quarter on an offensive drive, that's keeping the other team off the field. So I don't care if you have Mahomes or Joe Burrow or whatever, they're not doing much good on the sideline. So,
right?
yeah, let's zig when everybody zags. That works with me.
Yeah, no, and I guess we don't talk about him enough, and maybe shame on us, but a guy like Najee Harris, I think he has more to prove than maybe anybody on the team this year. We've been waiting for that guy. Give me 10 or 11 touchdowns this year running. Give me 3 to 5 catching. Give me a big year, and I think this team wins. But if he struggles, if it's a him and Jalen Warren, and he has 5 touchdowns, and Jalen Warren has 4, and they're kind of just average running backs, I don't think it works. But I think one of those two guys, and I would hope, and I think it would be Najee, needs to step up and have 11 or 1,200 yard season. Give me a Jerome Bettis season. Give me even a, you know, uh, something more than what we've had.
He's playing for a contract. He's playing for his career. He is basically the Steelers have basically told him this is it. This is the ball is in your hands. Uh, you know, you have to bet on, we're making you bet on yourself. Have a good year, you're gonna have a huge contract next year. So I love it. And he looks to be in great shape. I think he lost
Yep.
some weight. And he has competition on his own team. Everybody, when you look at when you look at fantasy football rankings, there are usually Najee is right next to Jalen Warren. People
Yep.
think that Jalen Warren is better or just as good as Najee Harris. So you have on your own team, you have the competition. So Najee is highly motivated to have a big year.
Yeah, because if you look at most of the PPR rankings, which I was doing this past week, being that I had a draft coming up, Najee was 75th as an average, and Jalen Warren was 76th.
There you go.
Justin Fields was 31st. Watson was 30th. So that didn't make me feel good. But and we talk about this a lot, and I'll keep saying it every episode if I have to. It's a dichotomy. It's a mirror of what happens in the NFL. Whether you say, "Oh, fantasy football," look, there was a reason that I think any Steeler, and we're we're all there in our Steeler jerseys, we're rooting for the Steelers, right? There wasn't a Steeler taken until probably 6th, 7th round. Same
Wow.
with the Giants, right? It's like, oh, it's been that way ever since Eli Manning was there. Like, hey, who are you taking from the Giants? You'll be my third receiver. I mean,
Right,
Saquon.
right.
Maybe Saquon was a little different there, but yeah, and you're right. I mean, it's Najee and Warren and Najee, and they're way down the list. So yeah, who knows? But hey, look, if maybe they do go with what I said, maybe each scores 5 or 6, and if they start winning, then so be it. But I just guess I'd like to see Najee take that next step to where he could be legitimately say, I was one of the best running backs in the league this year.
I'm
Because we
really
haven't had
rooting.
that go in a while.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for him to do that. For the simple reason that he got the short end of the stick for the past 4 years. He started, what was he drafted in 2020? He got that
Right.
horrible offensive line with Kendrick Green and baby Dan Moore. Dan Moore when he was starting. I mean, he sucks now. Imagine what he did, how he was as his rookie.
Right. Right.
Terrible offensive lines almost the entire time. The poor guy, as soon as he gets the ball, he's surrounded by 70 people and he has to fight his way just to make 1 yard or something like that. I would love to see him on a good offensive line, what he could do. I don't think he's Derrick Henry, but I think he's Derrick Henry lights, and that would be amazing. Just he could be he. Oh my gosh, just him with a good offensive line. That's what I keep saying. Imagine Najee Harris with a good offensive line. I hope we get to see it.
Yeah, and I hope we can see it here. Like I do really feel like he's the kind of guy that I would hate to see go and take off. Like you're right. You plug him in. I have a feeling if you plugged him in Detroit or San Francisco or Buffalo,
Yeah,
I think he would take off. I mean, this is a guy that he's somehow, despite everything you just said, he has somehow managed to rush for over 1,000 yards each of those seasons. And he scored seven, 8 touchdowns. And I'm not saying he needs to double that. I would just like to see him get to that 15, 14 yard plateau. We're scoring 9 or 10 touchdowns, catching 3 or 4. That's about what he's done normally. He's about 3 touchdowns a year receiving. That's the kind of guy I want to see. And I think that's the kind of guy we need is that extra step. Okay, everybody can rush for 1,000 yards. I need a guy that can rush for 15 or 1,600. Barry Foster, like going back to
yeah.
that, right? Jerome Bettis, and likes. So I would like to see him take that next step. He's not been bad. For actually considering what he's run by, and he's actually been pretty good.
Yeah.
I just want to see him become that next step, and you're right. That the only thing about it, Joe, is if he does have that kind of a season, let's say he goes 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to come back.
He won't. He won't. And
Yeah,
then it'll look real stupid that they could have picked him his 5th year option for like, 5 or 6 million or something like that. It'll look really stupid, but that's for some reason they decided not to take it. Oh well.
yeah, yeah. Because you got to think in his mind, he's thinking, okay, you've given me crap for the last 3 years I've
Hmm.
been here. You don't have enough confidence in me this year, so I'm going to go out there and, like you said, I'm going to beat the crap. I'm going to be ball busters. I'm going to have this great season.
I,
Then bye. I'm going to the Giants. I'm going to the Vikings. Whatever.
I would take them not, and I'm sure he did take them not extending, giving him the 5th year option. I'm sure he took that as a huge insult because he was very, I mean, he didn't speak to the media for months after that. So, yeah, if he has a good year, he's like, see us suckers. I don't care. I don't care what's going on anywhere else. I'll take my chances somewhere else. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Uh, this is going to be a very busy week because cut down day is tomorrow. So they got to get from 90 to 53. Teams have already started cutting players, but also we're also seeing um the end of a bunch of contract sagas. Like for example,
Right.
CeeDee Lamb got signed to an extension. Chase in Cincinnati. I guess
Mark Chase.
he's has, and of
Yep.
course there's Brandon Ayuk. So I think we're finally going to have the end of the Brandon Ayuk saga one way or another. One thing I heard, and this kind of freaks me out. Let's say they trade for Brandon Ayuk and they make him they sign him to a contract of who knows, 28 million a year or something like that. That means that definitely not extending Najee, even if they were thinking about it. They won't be extending Pat Fryermuth, and they won't be. That will be the end of Cam Hayward. We might lose 3 people if we get this dude.
I think you would. And I think so. Let's back up for 1 second. I think you're right. I think, I think we'll have resolution this week with Brandon Ayuk. I also saw that right now, in order for the 49ers to match the Steelers' offer, it'd be like 31 million more with taxes out in
Because there's
California.
so many taxes in
Yeah,
California. Yeah,
right. So I mean, it's kind of like off the wall. I'd still say there's probably a better than 50% chance he comes here, but I also think you're right about everything you just said. I think Najee's gone. Cam's probably done. And I don't know if I think Cam being done may have been just his age. I think they're, you know, it's a brutal business, and this is a guy that's just a little bit better than your average good player. He's a great player. He's a Walter Payton Award winner. He's beloved by this city. He is Mr. Steeler for us over the last 5 to 6 years, and he's probably going to be gone. And then so yeah, so I mean, it could make big waves, but who knows, Joe? I mean, maybe it's time to move on from some of those guys too. And I don't know, but I think you're right about everything you said. I just think like by the time we have this broadcast next week, is Ayuk a Steeler? I think we will know. And if he's a
or
Steeler, that changes a lot of what we're saying. I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
but you still need to get him the ball, and that's where we need to be. Fryermuth, look, I know he's a Penn Stater. When he was at Penn State, he was a phenom. Um, and I don't know if it's been a mix again, like he's been part of like the Najee thing, right? Three offensive coordinators. It's been scatterbrained. He was hurt last year. Just maybe he's never had the chance, but I was hoping he would be the next closest thing we had to Heath Miller, and he really hasn't panned out to be that way. Now, if all they say is true and an Arthur Smith offense, he also could be big. And Joe, if we don't get Ayuk, we talk about Najee. He sure as heck has got to be right there, Najee, and stepping up his game. We need to have him have, 8 or 9 touchdowns. He needs to have, better than 700 yards receiving as a tight end. Where they're not going to make it.
Pat Fryermuth has had almost the exact same situation that Najee has had. Najee has had to deal with crappy offensive lines and crappy offenses. Pat Fryermuth has had to deal with crappy offenses and crappy offensive coordinators and crappy quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ben's last
Yeah.
year was Fryermuth's rookie year, and I don't know what the numbers are, but I bet he had a very good, because I remember Ben was throwing him the ball like crazy. And I remember the thing about Pat Fryermuth was the dude's like a vacuum, especially in the red zone. The guy just does not miss. And I remember one time he did miss, but still, he was like he caught everything. So he's had to deal with a lot of crap, and he has a potential to have a huge year. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You're right on all accounts on that one for sure. I just feel like he's a guy too that just hasn't gotten it. Some of that's on him though too. He just hasn't had the breakout year everyone was hoping. But like you said, he's been under the same thing. On Ben's year, he had 6 receptions. He had 7 touchdowns.
there you go.
And I'll tell you that when he was at Penn State, and that's what his thing was coming in the NFL, he was looked for in the end zone. He was a beast in the end zone.
Yeah.
He was strong. He went up. He high pointed the ball very well for his size. And he has great hands. He fumbled, and he's only fumbled once since he's come to the Steelers.
Yeah.
He had 1 fumble in his career collegiately. So he's a guy that doesn't turn over the ball, and Heath Miller didn't turn over the ball, right? So he's what they need. He just hasn't been there. And it's just he's another guy. He also needs to step up. I'm not excusing him from everything. He needs to step up. And that might be a thing where he's only been in the league 3 years. I could see because a running back takes more abuse, if you ask me. I could see Muth having a big season and they give him the contract. I think he plays well. He goes 7 or 8 touchdowns. He goes 780 yards, 800 yards receiving with 70 catches. I think he's a Steeler for a while. If he doesn't, he's gone.
Franchise him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
franchise. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's going to be fun watching this season too, is just how that's all going to work. So absolutely. There's a lot on the line.
Has a potential to be amazing and has a potential to be maddening. We'll see. But one thing that we know is it will not be boring. That's for damn sure.
No,
I mean,
no.
we've been since that week in January when we got Russell Wilson, traded Pickett, and got Justin Fields, which was I think one of the craziest weeks in team history. Almost every week since then, we're like maybe in a couple times in June and July, it's been a little bit boring, but still, it has been crazy, interesting, exciting this whole time, which is amazing. And we didn't even get into the season yet, so we're about to have some fun.
Yes, yeah, all that stuff, all the drama, all the interesting things, the new things that have happened, from Queen to Justin Fields, it all comes to fruition here in just a few days. So, gonna be a fun season for sure. Gonna be a lot of fun podcasts. So,
Oh
I
yeah.
have a feeling we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Remember, be on standby for Ayuk watch if
Ayuk
it does
watch,
come to a thrilling
yeah,
conclusion.
unless Friday night where I'll be in the radio studio, I should be. Let me know. We'll see if we can get
I'll put up
together.
the bat signal.
Yeah, the bad signal. We may have to do a live broadcast from the
You're
team sport
doing
on Wednesday
you're
night.
calling a high school football game. It's like, guys, I'm sorry, I have an emergency. Brandon Ayuk just got traded. I have to leave this broadcast.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one guy that we both follow, Ryan Briggs. I've never seen anybody like him. I've broadcast the game with him. So we're calling the game. He's usually doing play by play, and I'm doing color. Um, and he's also the SID for Grove City College. And I've seen him enter in because he'll put his Professor Briggs live stats so you can track the game live that we're broadcasting. He'll be doing that on one laptop, and like the girls' Grove City volleyball team will have a home game, and he's over here updating their stats. It's like he's like, I don't know, Rain Man and off the charts genius and just a
It's
lot of fun.
crazy.
But
It's
that, yeah,
crazy how
so I
people
could
can be.
probably do that. Like, okay, hey, I'm in a studio, let's talk. But yeah, um, I'll say this, and let's just preview that. If Ayuk comes to the team, he changes that dynamic, everything we just said.
Yeah.
Now, right, he needs repetitions. He needs to work with these guys. So who knows? Those first two games might be a little foggy. But that also will get the no excuse sign back up. Because if you're giving Russell Wilson, George Pickens, and Brandon Ayuk, and Pat Fryermuth and Najee Harris, there's not a lot of excuses for him or Justin Fields if he comes in.
If he comes in, he might be the missing piece. Because what do? Who do you double team? Obviously, you double team Ayuk. That frees up George Pickens.
Right.
That frees up that frees up Muth. That frees up the running backs. That frees up any other tight end. It would be, yeah. He's the missing piece.
He is. Yep. So we're gonna have to see how it goes, but I think this could be possibly the most interesting week we have.
Possibly.
Yep.
All right. Well, have fun. Get
Yep.
some rest. We're gonna have to rest up because who knows what's gonna happen.
That's right. All right, Joe. Good talking to you as always.
We'll see you.